I'm Jewel, back with another super cool astrology video. I wanted to talk about the 7th house today and why it's important to learn to delineate and analyze the 7th house, and why it's critical to our relationships, and our happiness and our wholeness ultimately. So I'll be doing an ongoing series that I'll be contributing to and pointing out the different parts of the unconscious and different parts of the chart, where you can find the shadow side, what to do with it, and ultimately what it exists for and how we can become happier. So the 7th house, which is opposite to the 1st house, represents the inner partner for a person. It is the image that we hold of our inner partner, the person that we tend to see over and over again and attract, or are attracted to over and over again, until we make conscious the things of the 7th house. We incorporate the shadow side into our persona, which is the 1st house, through acceptance and allowance. Both the 7th and the 8th houses contain the shadow side, but the 7th house is specific to the unacknowledged elements of our own personality that we see in relationships or in other people. They are mirrored back to us. I'll be going into the 4th, the 8th, the 12th later on. But first I wanted to expand a little bit on what the 7th has to offer there. So the 7th house, very specific to the unacknowledged elements of our own personality. So the 8th house is very much about the personal unconscious. The 12th is the collective. The 4th is the intimate or the familial unconscious, the original unconscious. So the 1st house, the Ascendant, develops very early on. Between 0 and 18 months to 2 years old is when it comes into to solidity, you could say. And it is made up of what we know about our persona, what we want to be, what we decided very early on, what we were going to project ourselves as. The part of ourselves we put into the world first and most frequently. That's the Ascendant. So it's what we come to know and to want to be there. The 7th house, the Descendant, arises at the same time as the Ascendant, but it contains all that we don't associate ourselves with, all that we don't want to be, all that we say, this is what I know myself to be, the Ascendant. This is therefore what others must be, because this can't be me. So it's what we attribute to other people. So this is me, the 1st house. This is not me, the 7th house. We split ourselves off from the qualities described by the 7th house. The way that the 7th house ruler is aspected, the ruler of the 7th house, whatever planets are in the 7th house, these are all going to describe what we both detest in others and what we like, love, seek out in other people as well. The 8th house is more what we crave. So it's what we're both repelled and attracted to in other people. So again, I'll be going into how to analyze and disseminate and interpret the 7th house with examples over the next weeks. So you'll get a better sense of how to actually look at a chart and be able to visualize how to pick apart what some of these aspects look like, how to read that off a circular chart. So what we are detached from, unaware of, is what we are seeking to reconnect to through other people. What we are looking to complete ourselves, looking for to complete ourselves, is what is contained in the 7th house. But we can do this completion process all on our own. We don't need another person to actually make this happen. The process of infatuation is when we really see the 7th house in full motion. This is when the shadow side really, really comes to bear. We get a good look at the whole process here in the early stages of romance. So when we are in the early stages of a relationship, or in the infatuation stage of a relationship, those feelings of completeness, perfection, excitement, and wholeness that we experience, we can have that all the time once we do our shadow work. And we must become whole through accepting the entirety of what we are. That is what the basis of shadow work is. Seeing it and being it. So we can't know the unconscious part of ourselves really intimately, but we can experience them in flashes through what we see in other people, what's mirrored back to us. And those opposite qualities of those that you acknowledge to be true about yourself are found in the partners we attract. Outwardly weak and overly compassionate people often attract narcissistic or selfish partners. Really selfish partners tend to attract compassionate people or giving people. So it's the opposite of what it is you think you are. Now, seeing and accepting what's described and aspected in our 7th house is not comfortable. We don't just automatically, say, yes, okay, these things that I've never wanted to be, well, they're me and I'm okay with that. We have to get comfortable with these things. We have to get used to the idea that we have within ourselves qualities that we don't necessarily approve of or believe to be correct or acceptable. The truth is, we all contain everything. It's our job to become as complete as we can. We need to sit on the idea of perhaps being powerful, capable, or sometimes we find we're insecure or we're needy. Whatever the qualities are that you don't want to be but already are, that's what we're working with here. So I'm a really good example of shadow work myself, because this is something that I've been through and continue to do. I did not want to acknowledge my shadow side. I did not want anything to do with it. I was always searching for it, however. Searching for someone who was like a domestic guru kind of partner. Someone who could teach me all the mysteries of life and psychology, people, and someone highly educated, analytical, with access, to the secrets of the psyche and the universe. And, some of the big education or, a philosophical understanding. So that's Jupiter in the 7th house in Pisces, opposing Mars in Virgo in the 1st house. And Neptune ruling the Descendant and other aspects as well. So I had no idea that that person that I was searching for was me. It wasn't until I was forced to confront my shadow side and accept my anger as a part of my persona, a part of who I already was. Mars rules the 8th house, so, and it's in the 1st, so it's something I feared, but was very much destined to transform into and out of. So my shadow side, is accepting my anger and incorporating my anger, my Mars, into my persona, instead of attributing that Mars to partners or to other people there. So I could, transform into eventually seeing the qualities described by my 7th house in me. So I wouldn't be here talking to you now if that transformation process hadn't happened, or that shadow work, that acceptance hadn't happened. I would still be chasing after that brainy philosopher with a big education that I thought would complete me. And you know what? Guess what? That guy who always kept showing up for me always turned out to have anger problems. Imagine that. So, you see, once you see it, you have to accept it. Once you accept it, you become it. So we need to give ourselves permission to act out the traits at the ascendant that we discover in the descendant. This is when we get to become childlike again. We become as we were before we started to censor ourselves, to dilute ourselves, to even sometimes lie about who we were. And once we do our shadow work, the people we attract are all of a sudden able to meet us where we are. They are energetically aligned with us. We can only exist on a similar wavelength as those who resonate with us. When we bring our own energy up, because we are now whole, we've done our work, we attract those who are also as whole. So we can have the experience of a giving relationship rather than a taking relationship, your typical relationship, where we're getting with somebody so we can take from each other, so we will feel safe or complete or happy or satisfied. So when we have two whole people, we have two partners who are giving to each other, and this results in this energetic bond, a full relationship where neither ends up feeling drained or depleted or empty or exhausted. So all of us need to get to that place of being just so satisfied and happy and delighted with our own selves that we become an exclusive couple of one, a party of one. And we become very discriminating about who we allow into our party. And the cover charge for admission goes way up. We are so able to be on our own when we do our shadow work that we don't settle for anything less than we deserve. We don't settle for anything less than an appropriate match. Because we don't need a relationship at this point. We aren't needy anymore. The reason that we're after that relationship is to get the results of what we get when we do our shadow work. So, as opposed to before we do our shadow work, or often our relationship experiences, will fall for whoever it is that's going to make us feel undeserving. It's the opposite. When we do our good work, we don't fall for anyone who isn't really deserving of us and our time. We just don't we just don't resonate with them. They aren't attracted to us. So the reason that that mirror exists for us of the 7th house is to really show us specifically what qualities and behaviors we need to allow to come to the foreground of our personas. These are the balancing characteristics that we need to incorporate into our everyday selves in order to feel empowered and complete. And it's a process. It's a process of inquiring into what it is that we both love and hate about this or that person, following that thread back. And it will lead us to infinite discoveries about what we are and about all of the things that are contained in us. So becoming that whole and complete person attracts another whole and complete person. And it does cut down on the amount of people who are attracted to us, but the quality of those people, again, goes way up. So it's much less likely that we're wasting our time, because we become really, really good at knowing what it is that we want. We become really, really good at knowing ourselves as a result of doing our shadow work. So it's a fascinating process. And it's a process that once you go through, it's easy to see yourself reflected in everybody. It will bring you to a place of constant self-analysis because you're willing to see these things. You're willing to go there when it comes to questioning, why this quality has been shown to you, or this person is behaving in this way towards you. It's something that will open your vision to being able to see yourself in everybody else, and eventually to recognize that you're not actually separate from anybody else. That separateness is, again, that inability to want to accept our wholeness and completeness. And so this leads not only to appropriate, fulfilling relationships, if that's what we choose, it also leads to incredible insight on a deeper level that can eventually allow us to get past all manner of quirks and weirdness that can keep us from completely connecting with all people around us. So I hope this was helpful and clear, and brought a little bit more understanding to what the 7th house is about, and why we can see the same people showing up in our lives with the same characteristics over and over and over again. So you can find me on the internet at truthandaspectastrology.com, Facebook, Instagram, other social media at Truth and Aspect Astrology. I am mainly a relationship and intimacy astrologer, but I interpret all types of charts. And please find me on Patreon and support me over there so I can make more videos for you more often. And I'll be back super soon with more super cool videos. Bye-bye.